Welcome back to the BTS Happy Hour podcast. I'm your host, Andrea. On September 6th, V posted on Instagram sharing photos of his recent trip to New York. His U.S. trip has been reported to be for his photo shoot that'll be featured in the October issue of Vogue Korea. So I saw some of the cover photos that they took. These just came out today, and I saw that Vogue Korea posted some on Twitter, and he looks great. Lots of close-ups on his face, so you can't go wrong with that technique when it comes to V. This had to be a pretty easy assignment if you're that photographer, you know? It's like you pretty much can't fail. And, you know, putting V on your cover, I'm not sure why Vogue Korea hasn't done this like, you know, every other issue, have a member of BTS on there, because, you know, they'd sell a lot, and you're putting handsome men on the covers, and, you know, I guess, you know, they want to have models and other actors and stuff there sometimes too, so they got to switch it up sometimes. So this photo shoot apparently took place in New York, and that was the purpose of V's trip, to go there. So now, after his trip is over, V shared some photos and videos that showed some of the things that he did there. He didn't really show anything from his photo shoot, but, you know, he was showing the other kind of fun stuff he was doing and places he visited. So he posted them to his Instagram account. So this is another time when those individual accounts really came in handy. We can all see the latest V content. And let's see, one picture shows him at a bar in New York, and another time he is attending a jazz concert, and he's in his hotel, it looks like, taking some selfies in the elevator. I've never been to New York, so I don't really recognize these places. I'm sure they're very exclusive places, and he has done research on, like, you know, where he wanted to go while he's there, especially if I'm sure he requested some kind of jazz club, and it looks like he found a really like swanky one that has like a piano player and, you know, a really cool atmosphere. So he found some pretty cool places, and I remember he brought his golf club, so he must have played golf probably at a really nice exclusive golf course. And it shows him with a wine bottle. It's probably like a really expensive wine. This article says that one of the places he visited was Zero Bond, known as the New York art world's favorite private club. Getting into the exclusive club isn't easy or cheap. The private club only accepts members that display a high level of integrity and has a membership rate ranging from $2,500 to $4,500. So I don't know if he like paid that. I mean, I doubt he paid that. They probably invited him as a guest, you know, because once the word is out there, like, oh, you know, this famous celebrity visited here, this will probably make other people, it's like good advertising for the, you know, elite in New York. They'll be like, oh, V was at this place? Well, I want to go there too. The bottle of wine he's posing with is a vintage Madeira, known as one of the oldest and most complex wines on the market. And it's like a 1908 wine, which costs $800. Wow, okay. I'm not a big wine person, but I mean, I'll try something that's exclusive and it's like, oh, this is the best wine. It's like, oh, okay, that sounds good. So he is living the life in New York, according to his Instagram. However, because netizens are netizens, they're going to be always looking for signs of other things going on. And there's netizens that are still, you know, pursuing the whole V is dating Jennie thing, and they've analyzed their photos. So V's photos and then Jennie's photos from the same week, and trying to figure out, okay, were they together on dates during this New York trip? And it's like, okay, they couldn't just let it go. It's just like, just let people post their pictures and not have all this speculation about it. So, people have noticed that they seem to have gone to some of the same locations. One of them is a ferry port near Liberty National Golf Course, and another place is a location in the middle of Manhattan. And the thing is, like, there's only so many places in New York to visit, and I'm sure a lot of these idols have similar interests, or they hear from other idols like, oh, this place is a cool place, I want to visit there the next time I'm there. And it could be a total coincidence that they went to the same places. It could be not. It could be they were there together. It could be they were there with a group. I don't think we know enough to say, like, they were there dating. I just don't understand, if they were out there together, wouldn't there have been sightings by people? Because these are like two very recognizable people. Even if you have hats on, even if you have masks on, why wouldn't someone have caught, like, blurry cell phone photo or video? Like, somebody had to have also be in the same place as them and recognize them if V and Jennie were at some famous landmark together. I just feel like, okay, if let's say they really are dating, how come no one's seen them together? It's really weird, because it's, especially if you're out in public, I can see, okay, if you only go to each other's houses and you're in, vans with tinted windows and a code to have to get into the other person's house, like, okay, that can be completely hidden. Like, people can date all they want and do that and no one would ever know. But this is like being out in public, where just random people are going to walk by, where there's army everywhere, where there's blinks everywhere, and two recognizable faces. I just think, like, right now, this doesn't rise to factual enough for me. Like, somebody would have seen them. Like, everybody has a cell phone, so it just seems like they would have been seen together by some third party. So, I don't know. That it doesn't seem like that was the case. It just seems like, okay, they went to a lot of similar places. The other thing people are noticing is they're finding evidence that V and Jennie are sharing, like, certain clothing items, or they're wearing jewelry that indicates that they're a couple. Like, for example, after he came back from New York, V went to an art exhibition with Park Bo-gum in Seoul, and he's wearing a certain hat in the museum. And in one of Jennie's photos, she is wearing that same hat, but, like, wearing it backwards. And it was when Jennie was out with Rosé and in New York sightseeing or whatever, and she's wearing the same baseball cap. So, I mean, and the hat, people have identified, the hat is from Liberty National Golf Club in Jersey City, New Jersey, and is said to be one of the most expensive golf courses in history, as it cost over $250 million to build. And so people are saying, okay, well, this is probably V's baseball cap that he got from this golf club when he went there to play golf. And then, Jennie wore it during that same trip, and so they're dating. So that's one thing that people are pointing out that they think is evidence. And, they have these certain type of earrings that look like they're for couples. I don't know if Jennie went to the golf club, if that's what they're saying. Like, I don't think she plays golf, but I don't know. I guess you can still go even if you are a beginner, or you're just there to watch other people play. I guess that's possible. I mean, that would be kind of boring, though. A golf date and you're not interested in golf. Like, I don't know if that would be very fun. But yeah, so that's some of the other evidence, quote unquote, that netizens are saying that proves it, and still not really convinced that they're dating. Like, why can't anybody in the wild ever see them together? Like, just a member of the public who isn't ARMY or isn't a Blink, or they'd be captured on just random photography, like somebody's social media, somebody on Instagram, like, would have a picture of it. So I don't know. If they're dating, that's great. If they're not, then they're not. It's just hilarious that this stuff always pops up. Yeah, it's also possible they all went as a group. Like, I thought I remember reading that they are in a friend group, so they have, a bunch of people in common that they're friends with. So who knows? But at least the whole leaked pictures story seems to be over, and we seem to be just back to a not status quo, but things are calmed down now. And Jennie has an album coming out with Blackpink, and V's got his Vogue Korea that's coming out, and I'm sure he's working on his music as well. So they've got real stuff going on. They don't need people talking about dating until we have some factual information. You most likely have heard about the big concert BTS is planning to have in October in Busan. If you aren't aware of all the details about that, I can summarize the whole situation as it stands right now. So BTS announced that they are going to perform for a free concert live in October. The concert will also have a live stream on Weverse, Zepeto, and Naver Now, so that ARMY can watch all over the world. And they're also going to do a live play where fans can watch the concert in real time on a large screen. So why is BTS performing as a group in Busan in October? And you might be wondering, well, aren't they on their group break right now? So it's kind of right in the middle of that. Well, not middle, but, right in the midst of that. And the answer is it's part of the city's all-out bid to host the World Expo 2030. The 2030 World Expo is a global event that strives to encourage knowledge sharing and the advancement of the global economy, culture, science, and technology, while enabling exhibitors to showcase their accomplishments and strengthen intercultural ties. And this article is saying you can think of it as the Olympic Games for economic and cultural entities. And that's why South Korea wants to host the World Expo in 2030, because they want to put South Korea on the map as far as economy and culture. So this will help them be, one of the top countries. And so as of right now, South Korea submitted their letter of candidature to the organization that decides who gets to host this. So they wanted to have this take place in Busan, which is the country's second largest city and greatest port city. So for them, I guess it's kind of like LA or San Francisco. That's like they're very populated coast city that has good weather and would be a great place for World Expo, that where people from all over the world would visit and they'd spend a lot of money. So yeah, I guess it's kind of like an Olympics, but for other things. So I mean, I've never heard of this before, like a couple months ago. So to me, it's like, what is this? The what expo? It's like, for what reason? But this seems to be very important for South Korea, and they're really working hard to try to be chosen as the host city. And by having BTS perform, that's gonna improve their chances. I don't know if the committee or whoever is going to be swayed by that, or if it will just demonstrate like, oh, okay, this city has, enough infrastructure. They will be able to host a huge event. They'll have, enough hotel rooms, enough space for everybody. And, it'll be a place where guests can have a good time. So, yeah, I mean, I can see from a tourism standpoint, this would be really important for South Korea to be able to be chosen. And so, of course, they wanted BTS to, I don't know whose idea this was, this concert, but it says South Korea appointed BTS as the honorary ambassadors of the event last July. And so I guess then came the idea of BTS holding this free concert on October 15th to I guess impress people and show like, we can host this event. And right now Busan is competing against 4 other cities who also want to host the 2030 World Expo. And it's like, oh, 2030, that's like so far away. But it's like, it's always hard to remember, like, oh, it's 2022 and it's only like 8 years away. So it's like not that far off. It just sounds like such a high number. It's like, oh, wow. It's like years pass by like nothing, like a blink now. It seems like. Okay, so the other 4 cities they are competing against: Moscow, Russia; Odessa, Ukraine. It's like, oh, that's interesting. Like Russia against Ukraine. And Rome, Italy; and Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. So, wow, that's actually like pretty big competition, because I'm sure these other cities are going to try to spend money too, and in their attempts to be chosen as the city. So I don't know, it might be a tough competition. I don't know what criteria they're working on, but South Korea does have BTS, so I think that's going to be a big factor. And this article says that the 2030 World Expo host country will be announced in late 2023. So that's like a year from now. We'll be in suspense until then. And okay, so that's what that event was all about. And I've been hearing about this for the past couple of months, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. They want to do this concert. That's fine. But then finding out more of the details, it's kind of like, I'm not sure about all of this. So, BTS, they decided they want this concert to be free, or HYBE decided that, whoever. And, it can be free, but that means it's still going to cost a lot of money to hold the concert, and somebody's got to pay for that. And I'm seeing quotes that it's going to cost 7 billion Korean won to hold this concert, and that translates to $5.1 million. That's like, wow, sounds expensive. But, I guess there's a lot to do to prep the city and the stadium and all this stuff. So I could see, to get everything ready, although this is already like next month. I guess they're going to work fast. So, they've been saying that, okay, who's going to pay for all this? And there's supposed to be, HYBE is definitely involved very heavily, and the city of Busan is involved, and there's talk of sponsorships and advertisements. And I think people were concerned because for a little while there, it was like, okay, who are the sponsors? Like, oh, we don't know. There's none that are finalized yet. So, and the city of Busan, it seemed like they're kind of leaving everything up to HYBE, like, making them do all the work. I mean, not making them, but it's like they're just kind of like directing people. It's like, okay, HYBE is organizing this, so if you have any questions, talk to Bang PD, talk to Hybe, and they will have an answer for you. And so at this time for this article, it was like, okay, they didn't have any sponsors yet, but I did see later on Twitter, it seems like more definite that there are sponsors, and it's the typical ones that BTS works with. And I'm sure that's how they were convinced, because it's like, okay, well, we work with BTS, we feel very comfortable sponsoring something that they're a part of, because we'll be able to get our ads and stuff in front of a lot of ARMY, and it's a lot of customers. So it says that there are some sponsors such as Naver, Zepeto, Hyundai, SK Telecom, Lot Duty Free, Krispy Kreme, and others. So I think that sounds right, because these are companies that work with BTS all the time, and they're already spokespeople for them. So yeah, I think it's just the fact that people didn't know tons of details about this in the beginning, so they were getting kind of nervous. It's like, okay, is Hybe gonna pay for everything? Because that's not very fair. There should be some of this coming from government money, and some of these sponsors need to be paying, because it's not really fair that Hybe has to do the whole thing. And that kind of brings up, like, okay, why does Hybe have to be so in charge of it? It's like, this should be run by the government. And that's how Olympic committees work. It's like they form a committee, and it's like, politicians, and it's like, business people, and it's like people who really know how to plan big events. Like, they make a committee, and then all these like very powerful people get together. But it seems like the city of Busan is saying, like, okay, well, yeah, Hybe is organizing this whole thing, so that's who you need to ask questions to. And I guess it could be that they just have so much confidence in Hybe, because they do so well planning events. Like, we've seen BTS concerts, we've seen, all the BTS events, like, how Las Vegas was all purple. Like, they had all of these amazing things that contributed to Permission to Dance Las Vegas. And I think Busan is just like trusting Hybe that, you guys can make magic. You can make this an amazing experience. So we're going to give you the responsibility. And I guess my question is, like, why does Hybe want to do it so bad? Like, it's a lot of work for them. And, they have a business to run. They have other groups. I'm sure they have enough people to go, executives or whatever, that can keep other things running, like whatever TXT is doing, whatever the New Jeans, or the other groups, like the things that they need to do. They're touring, they're doing all this stuff. They have probably enough people to go around. But yeah, it does seem like a lot of responsibility is on Hybe to make this happen. And there was a lot of discussion about, like, originally they were going to have this event at some temporary venue, like the site of a former glass factory, and they were going to just, build a new temporary space for the concert. But then that sounds like a lot of work, because it's got to be big enough to fit 100,000 people, and also be able to accommodate everybody, and enough places to buy food, enough bathrooms, enough places to get water. And I mean, you want it to be pleasant. You don't want it to be like just built and like very plain and kind of slapped together. Like, you want it to be safe too. But yeah, the thing is, I think with Busan, it's like not every place has all of the public transportation or accessibility by roads. And you're also going to need a ton of parking, because I'm assuming people drive in Korea. Like, not everybody is taking the bus or train or walking or taking a bike. There has to be enough parking too. Or maybe I'm just being an American and thinking of it that way. Because if I'm going to a concert, I'm probably going to think about driving there with a car if you didn't have, a good enough option for public transport. So, I guess the original idea for where they were going to do this, like that idea, it's like, okay, this isn't going to work. So they switched it over to having it at a stadium. So this is Busan Asiad main stadium. They've switched it to that venue, and it has 53,000 seats, but they think they'll be able to fit 100,000 people seated and in standing areas. So this is a new venue that has plenty of access points and facilities. So that sounds like that's a solid plan. I'm just kind of scared that it's like, okay, this is already next month. I hope that they can get everything ready that they need to in that time. It's just a lot to organize. And I'm hearing that there's also other matters like, okay, you have a concert that's going to have 100,000 people. That means you need a lot of hotel rooms. And I'm sure there's only so many hotel rooms in that area because it's not used to having a ton of visitors there. So, there's only so many hotels. So what happens when the demand is high for hotel rooms? Well, of course, the prices are going to go up. And so some people are complaining that, hotel prices are really expensive right now. And they're saying, oh, there's price gouging going on. Like, I don't know if you can even call it that. I think it's really just supply and demand at this point. Hopefully that gets resolved, or, maybe there's going to be more availability opening up. Maybe there'll be some like Airbnbs, like, people who live in Busan, that might not be a bad idea. It's like you offer up your place for Airbnb rental. It's like you could probably make like a ton of money right there for people going to this concert. So I think, hopefully that's something the government can look into. It's like, okay, where are the other hotel rooms? And maybe we need to look at hotels that are a little further away, but then organize free transport for those people, because they'll be driving in from further away. So they want to be able to get to the concert, but you also don't want tons of traffic. You want people moving as efficiently as possible, and you don't want to have all these traffic jams and making it difficult to get anywhere. Yeah, I'm sure there's a ton of factors involved in this, and I guess if anyone can make it work, it's Hybe. They've organized plenty of large events. And I think there's also a concern about safety, but I think that is probably going to be okay since they've switched it to this established stadium that's brand new, and it should be all right. And I guess the other concern is, 100,000 people all in the same place. Like there might be a panic, or kind of like what happened at Astro World. But I don't think that kind of a situation would happen, because I think that is more behavior based. That was like a bunch of people trying to rush in and not pay, and people were acting wild and being destructive on purpose. Whereas I think in Korea, it's going to be 100,000 people in one place, but I think they're all going to be pretty well behaved, and especially if we're talking about most of them are going to be army. So those people are not going to be starting any kind of riots or trampling other people or anything like that. So I don't see too much of a concern about safety. I think the fact that they switched to this new stadium probably resolved a lot of what those concerns were, as far as I know. If there's other factors involved that that have to do with safety that people are still worried about, make sure you let me know, because I don't know, everything there is about it. And maybe there's some people in Korea, some listeners who kind of know more of the inside scoop, or maybe you're in Busan and you're hearing like more of the details on this. So I think it's very interesting that this concert is taking place. It's moving forward. It's definitely going to happen. I think it was this week that they've already started. I think you had to apply for a lottery to be able to get a ticket to this. It's even if it's a free concert, it's like there's still a process to try to get tickets to it. And I saw that they've already started with that. Some people were like, yay, I got tickets, I'll be able to go. So they've already got that part of it organized too. And I'm sure they'll have whatever requirements, just like they would for any concert. It's like, okay, you gotta have a clear bag, you gotta have your ID, you gotta have your ticket and all this stuff, and gotta get here at this time. So I think it's all coming together. I think it's like you just wonder why HYBE wants to do all this work for this event. And I mean, I guess there's the benefit of, people are going to think HYBE is so great because they organize this. They'll get a lot of feelings of goodwill from people of Korea, especially if Busan wins the bid, and, people will be very grateful to HYBE. So I think their reputation would be helped. And I think also part of it is BTS. They have their idea about, they've always wanted to perform at a free concert for 100,000 of their fans. And I think they really are, tied to that idea. They want to make it happen. And so they want to do it their way. And that's maybe why HYBE is so deeply involved in it, because they want it to be a good experience for ARMY who's coming to see them and who are used to a certain level of entertainment. They can't have something go wrong because that's gonna make them look bad. I mean, like I brought up Astroworld before. It's like that was really badly organized and people's safety was compromised, and maybe Travis Scott wasn't involved in all those details, but that whole situation, people dying, like that all reflected on him. The buck stops at the person at the top. So it's all gonna reflect on the big name. So I think that's why they really want this to happen. They want it to go well, and they have their best people at HYBE probably working 24 hours a day to make this happen. And it's next month, so hopefully they've got it pretty much under control, because that's coming up very fast. So yeah, I guess that's all there is to it. BTS just cares about the fans, and they want this to be a good experience and have this concert for ARMY and help Korea at the same time. So I think that's their story. That's the narrative that we can accept for right now. And just in reading about this whole Busan concert story, we can take a look at how else is Busan relevant in BTS lore. So besides this World Expo concert in Busan, what else do we know about Busan? So I don't know everything there is about Korea. I'm just being honest. I only know things that come up that have to do with Busan, if it has to do with BTS somehow. And I do know that there's 2 BTS members who are from Busan, and that's Jimin and Jungkook. So I don't know if everybody knows that, because they're all, BTS, they're all from different places all over South Korea, but Jimin and Jungkook are from Busan, and that's why they're often called the Busan Boys. So I'm sure when this concert takes place, it'll probably have even more meaning for them because it's their hometown. And yeah, so about Busan, it's the second most populated city in Korea, and it's located at the southeastern tip of the country, and it's a port city, so it's right on the coast. And the city is known for its beaches. Okay, good to know. Busan is also part of one of ARMY's silly inside jokes. And if you're baby ARMY, this might be news to you, but you can look this up on YouTube or Twitter or whatever and see the video clip that I'm going to talk about. But there was a fan meeting early on in BTS's career, and they're all seated at a table in front of a crowd of ARMY, and they're speaking into the microphone at the crowd. And so the fan meeting is in Busan. So the members are kind of warming up the crowd. They're kind of making small talk. So J-Hope asks the crowd, "What's tasty in Busan?" And, he's kind of just asking them. It's like, "Okay, what are the good dishes here? Like, let me know." And so the fans, they start shouting out foods that Busan is known for. And then Jungkook leans over and whispers something into J-Hope's ear. And then Jungkook slaps the table because whatever he said, he thought it was so funny. And then J-Hope says, "Jungkook is so weird." And then the fans are screaming, like, "What did he say? Tell us." And then J-Hope won't say. And then Jimin motions to Jungkook to tell him in his ear what he said to J-Hope. So he's like dying to know what was said over there that J-Hope refuses to say. And yeah, meanwhile, J-Hope is saying, "Nope, I'm not going to say what Jungkook said. It's a secret between us." And then they're trying to move on with the whole fan meeting. They're trying to like, okay, anyways. So the fans are still yelling out, like, "What did he say?" And so now Jimin takes the microphone and he says, "Everyone, Jungkook has become an adult." And then, everybody's laughing. The crowd is laughing. The fans are like, "What are you imagining?" And then Jimin says, "Everyone, it's exactly what you're thinking of." And then he's like, "Oh, you guys like that?" So basically, whatever Jungkook said to J-Hope was something dirty, and that's why J-Hope didn't want to repeat it. It's like there's young fans there. He doesn't want to be, videotaped saying that or seen to be saying anything inappropriate. So it's a very hilarious clip. So if you can just Google it on YouTube. It's one of the funniest moments ever. It's something that people say all the time too. ARMY, it's like, "What's tasty in Busan?" So one of those great moments in BTS comedy history. But yeah, it reminded me of that. The fact that this concert is in Busan, it reminded me of this event. You can listen to BTS Happy Hour on Samsung Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and other podcast platforms, or visit btshappyhour.com. If you like the show, please take a moment to rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Weverse. Check out the merch store with BTS-themed tees, hoodies, and more, linked in the description, as well as on the BTS Happy Hour Facebook page. Until next time, this has been the BTS Happy Hour. Thanks for listening, and remember, make every hour a happy one.